Hello, it's Grandma. Are you ready for Grandma's story time? I've got my bag here, my story bag, with purple circles and golden elephants and blue circles and golden elephants and red circles. You know who's in here? Oops. Come out, Peter. Oh, Peter's very happy. Yes, because Mollie and Peter, they found Chinky and the wishing chair, didn't they? Yes, that was very good. And now they'll be able to fly out together. You don't think so? He said sometimes things go wrong. We have to read the book and find out. Okay, here's the book we're reading. We're up to chapter 6. Enid Blyton, the wishing chair again. Chinky. Peter can go in the bag and we'll read the book. Let's see, where's the bookmark? Here it is. Uh-oh. I can't read. Put on your glasses, Grandma. There. Chapter 6 is called Mr. Spells is Very Magic. The wishing chair stood with the other 5 chairs, its red wings flapping strongly. The children caught hold of the sleeping pixie and dragged him to the chair. He felt as heavy as lead. If only he would wake up. He's in a terribly magic sleep, said Mollie in despair. Now, lift him, Peter, that's right, and put him safely in the seat of the chair. Oh dear, he's rolling off again. Do be quick. They could hear Mr. Spells muttering in the next room, stirring something in a pot. In a few moments he would have made his find out spell to see which was the wishing chair, and he would come back into the room. They must get away first. The chair's wings were now fully grown, and it was doing little hops on the ground as if it was impatient to be off. The children sat down in it, holding Chinky tightly. Tricky, the goblin, was still lying on the floor, fast asleep. Good. Fly home, chair, fly home, commanded Peter. Just in time too, because as he spoke, the children could hear the wizard's steps coming towards them from the next room. He appeared at the door, carrying something in a shining bottle. The chair had now risen in the air, flapping its wings, and was trying to get out of the window. It was an awkward shape for the chair to get through, and it turned itself sideways so that the children and Chinky nearly fell out. They clung to the arms in fright, trying to stop Chinky from rolling off.
Hey!
Cried the wizard in his great astonishment.
What are you doing? Why, that chair's grown wings. Who are you, children? And what are you doing with my chair? Come back!
By this time, the chair was out of the window and was the right way up again. Much to the children's relief, it flew up in the air. Good, we've escaped, and we've got both the chair and Chinky, said Peter, pleased. Even if he is asleep, we've got him, and we'll have to ask the elf if he knows a way to wake him up. But Peter spoke too soon. Mr. Spells was too clever to let the chair escape quite so easily. He came running out of his castle-like house, carrying something over his arm. What's he going to do? Said Mollie. What's he got, Peter? They soon knew. It was a very, very long rope, with a loop at the end to lasso them with. Mr. Spells swung the loop of rope around for a second or two and then flung the rope up into the air. It unwound and the loop almost touched them, but not quite. The chair gave a little jump of fright and rose a bit higher. "Oh, do go quickly, chair," begged Mollie. "The wizard is gathering up the rope to throw it again. Look out, here it comes. Oh, Peter, it's going to catch us. It's longer than ever." The rope sped up to them like a long, thin snake. The loop fell neatly around the chair, but before it could tighten, Peter caught hold of it and threw it off. He really did it very cleverly indeed. "Oh, Peter, you are marvellous," cried Mollie. "I really thought that we were caught that time. Surely we're out of reach now. The wizard looks very small and far away." Once more, the rope came flying towards the wishing chair, and it tried to dodge it, almost upsetting the children altogether. The rope darted after the chair and fell firmly around it, and before Peter could throw it off, it had tightened itself around the chair and the children too. Peter struggled hard to get a knife to cut the rope, but his arms were pinned tightly to his sides and he couldn't put his hands into his pockets. Mollie tried to help him, but it was no use. Mr. Spills was hauling on the rope, and the chair was gradually going down, down, down. "Oh dear, we're caught," said Mollie in despair. "Oh dear, we're caught," said Mollie in despair. "Just when we had so nearly escaped too, Peter. Do think of something." But Peter couldn't. Chinky might have been able to think of some spell to get rid of the rope, but he was still fast asleep. Mollie had to use both hands to hold him on the chair in case he fell off. Down went the chair, pulling against the rope and making things as difficult as possible for the wizard, who was in a fine old temper when at last he had the chair on the ground.
"What do you mean by this?"
he said sternly.
"What kind of behaviour is this? Coming to my house and stealing one of my chairs I bought. The wishing chair too. The best of the lot. I didn't even know one of the chairs was a magic chair when I bought that set."
Mollie was nearly crying. Peter looked sulkily as he tried to free his arm from the tight rope.
"You'll keep that rope around you for the rest of the day,"
said Mr. Spills.
"just to teach you that you can't steal from a wizard."
"Let me free," said Peter. "I'm not a thief, and I haven't stolen this chair. Unless you call taking something that really belongs to you stealing, I don't."
"What do you mean?"
said Mr. Spills.
"I'm tired of hearing people say this chair is theirs. Tricky said it, Chinky said it, and now you say it. It can't belong to you all, and anyway, I bought it with my money."
"Mr. Spills, the wishing chair is ours," said Peter patiently. "It lives in our playroom, and Chinky the pixie shares it with us, and he looks after it. Tricky stole it and sold it to Mr. Polish, who had 5 other chairs just like it." "And then Tricky told you about the 6 old chairs and you went and bought them," said Mollie. "And Tricky came to get back the wishing chair because it's valuable and he can sell it to somebody else. And then Chinky came to try and tell you about it before Tricky stole it," went on Peter. "And I suppose they came in at the same time and quarrelled about it."
"Well, well,"
said Mr. Spills, who had been listening in surprise.
"this is a queer story, I must say. It's true that I came in from the garden to find the goblin and the pixie behaving most peculiarly. They kept sitting down on first one chair and then on another, trying to find out which was the wishing chair, I suppose, and shouting at one another all the time.
"I tied my blue hanky on the right arm of the wishing chair," said Mollie.
Yes, I saw it there, and I wondered why,"
said Mr. Spills.
"I can see it in Chinky's pocket now. He must have recognised it as yours and taken it off. Well, I suppose you came in at just the moment when I was angry with them both and put them in a magic sleep.
Yes, said Peter. Then you went out and we thought we'd escape if we could, taking Chinky with us. The chair suddenly grew its wings, you see. Mr. Spells, can we have back our chair, please, now that you've heard our story? Begged Mollie. I know you've paid some money to Mr. Polish for it, but couldn't you get it back from Tricky the Goblin? After all, he's the rogue in this, not us or Chinky.
You're quite right,
said Mr. Spells.
and I think it's very brave of you to come to rescue Chinky. I'm sorry I put him in a magic sleep now, but I'll wake him up again, and now I'll take the rope off and set you free.
He took the rope off Peter and then lifted Chinky from the wishing chair and laid him down on the floor. He drew a white ring of chalk around him and then a ring of blue inside the white ring. And then he called loudly,
Cinders, where are you? Dear me, that cat is never about when he's wanted.
There was a loud meow outside the window. In jumped a big black cat with green eyes that shone like traffic signals, and he ran to Mr. Spells.
Cinders, I'm going to do a wake-up spell, said the wizard. Go and sit in the magic ring and sing with me while I chant the spell.
Cinders leapt lightly over the chalk rings and sat down close to the sleeping Chinky. Mr. Spells began to walk around and around just outside the ring, chanting a curious song. It sounded like,
Berry Lula, Cabiny Poo, Rimini Romany Rye, Tibby Nooka Felly Loo, open your sleepy eye.
all the time the wizard chanted this queer song, the cat kept up a loud meowing, as if he was joining in too. The spell was a very good one, because at the end of the chant, Chinky opened first one eye, and then the other, and he sat up looking extremely surprised.
I say,
He began.
what's happened? Where am I? Oh, hello Peter and Mollie. I've been looking for you everywhere.
And we've been looking for you, said Mollie. You've been in a magic sleep. Get up and come home with us. The wishing chair has grown its wings again. Then Chinky saw Mr. Spells standing nearby, tall and commanding. He went rather pale.
But I say, what does Mr. Spells think about this?
He said nervously.
I have heard the children's story, and it is quite plain that the chair really does belong to you.
He said.
I'll get the money back from Tricky.
Well, he's very tricky, so be careful,
said Chinky, sitting down on the wishing chair with the children.
He'll get a shock when he wakes up,
said Mr. Spells. And he suddenly touched the sleeping goblin with the toe of his foot.
Diminy, 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 diminish,
he cried suddenly. And lo and behold, the goblin shrank swiftly to a very tiny creature indeed, diminishing rapidly before the astonished eyes of the watching children. Mr. Spells picked up the tiny goblin, took a matchbox off the mantelpiece, popped him into it.
He won't cause me any trouble when he wakes up,
he said.
No, not a bit. Well, goodbye. I'm glad this has ended all well, but I do wish that chair was mine.
The children waved goodbye and the chair rose into the air. Shall we go home? Said Peter. No, said Mollie, suddenly remembering the satchel of sandwiches and cake that Peter still carried. will take Chinky off for the day. Picnicking! We deserve a nice peaceful day after such a thrilling adventure. Right, said Peter, and Chinky nodded happily. Wishing chair, take us to the nicest picnic spot you know. And off they flew at once to have a very happy day together. And that's the end of chapter 6. It's good that it ended well. It took 6 chapters for them to find Chinky, find the wishing chair, then to lose it, and then to find it again and finally be on their way home after a picnic. Come back. There's bound to be a new adventure in chapter 7. Bye-bye.